Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. This is Engineer Asghar Basha, and today I'm starting my favorite series of MCQs, the skills of mine. And this is Engineer Asghar Basha, contract management specialist, fitting specialist, lettering specialist, project management specialist, construction management specialist, and civil engineer, and currently enrolled assistant RE. Today we will starting the construction management, our construction planning, our construction management series. So without further ado, let's start the first question. In construction management, it is asking in a question that which one of the following represents an activity. As you can see, what is activity in civil engineering? So that's the questions. For example, so construction management, the first thing is, what is activity in construction management? Did you guys know that what is an activity in construction management? This is the skills that I'm giving to you. Another skills from Engineer Bacha. An activity is an operation, a process consuming time. Now, when there's an activity, there is an operation. Just like doctors do operations, just like other military operations are occurring, just like different natural processes are occurring, in activity, in a construction management and construction and a civil engineering would be an operation. Is an operation or process, but it will consuming time and possibly some other resources. That resources will be labors, machineries, equipments, and which is non-labors. Now, an individual of or work team can manage an activity. If you are a high competent person, you think that you have something special out of yourself, you think you're the best civil engineer in the world, you think that you are the most skillful inspector inside, you think you're the most skillful subdivision officers, you think you're the most individual assistant directors, most skillful you are, you can manage an activity by yourself. But if you believe in a teamwork, if you not believe in a backbiting, back bunching, leg pulling, and you believe in a work team, so a work team can also manage an activity. It is a measurable element of the total project program. Why it's measurable? Because it involving a time, so you can measure the time, which is the time management. You can measure the cost, which is the cost management. You can measure the scope, which is the scope management. So it's a measurable element of the total project program. A project himself is a program. It's having the start date and the finish date. The term duration refers to the length of the time. The term duration refers to the length of the time, how much time project can be completed, needed to complete an activity. So that's what an activity in civil engineering is and construction management is all about. So as you can see, the excavation for foundation is an activity. So this is an excavation of foundation. So is it an activity? Okay. So this is another activity, which is a covering of concrete. So is it an activity? Oh, I should say that it's activity. So is it an activity? I'm going to ask you a question. So in this case, so preparing a breakfast is an activity. This beautiful lady is preparing this breakfast for you. So setting up a question paper. What is mean by setting up question paper? To set the question paper, to compile the question paper, to work out the question paper, to answer the question paper, to setting up, to compile the question paper, to complete the question paper is an activity. Let me show you. So all of the above are the activities. Question number 2, inquiry statement. Pick that. So an activity of a project is denoted by an arrow on the network. So what is mean by that? So if we have a network and a network diagram, a construction network diagram. Say that is a construction network diagram where an activity 0 is the first activity. When the 0 activity finishes, the 1 will start it. So 1 is the predecessor of the 0 activity. So let me discuss some types of queuings. If I am an assistant resident engineer, if I am a resident engineer, and if I have a kind of inspectors which always are backbiters, are leg pullers. So if I'm not gonna instruct him directly, I can instruct contractor and telling him in writing that whenever there's a concrete activity going on, I could write, dear contractor, ensure curing to concrete for minimum 3 days and maximum 7 days, and any of the method recommendation to you, which is ponding method, if you're going to do the ponding or steam curing, or if you're going to do curing chemicals, are you going to do spraying water, you're going to do bunny bags using, are you going to do the hazy and clause insurance, and submit report to that dam inspector so that he can check that and inspect that. I will write like in that. Well, that's the types of curing. Alright, so when the 2 activity 1 finishes, then 2 will start. So activity 2 is the predecessor, is a successor of activity 1, and 1 is a precedence of successor of activity 2. I mean, 2 depends on 1, 1 did not depend on 2. Similarly, activity 3 will be started when activity 2 finished. So activity 3 is the successor activity of activity number 2, and activity 2 is the dominant activity, because 2 will, when once finish, whether early finish or late finish, the activity 3 will then start it. Now when activity 3 finishes, then we have 3 different activities were starting. 4 activity, activity 5, activity 6. But which one will start out of these 4, 5 and 6 number of activities? But that's for sure, these all 3 these activities are the successors activities of activity number 3, because when 3 did not finish it up in the project, the 4, 5, 6 will never gonna be started. Alright, so 4, 5, 6 is the successor activities of number activity 3, and 3 is the precedence activity of activity 4, 5, 6. In project management, if I can look around in project management and construction management, the activity successor activity is that activity which follows another activity. Alright, did you get this? A successor is an activity that follows another activity. Alright, not in a chronicle sense, like 4, 5, 6 are the successor activity of this predecessor 3. 3 is the successor activity of 2, which is the predecessor. 2 is the successor activity of predecessor 1. Predecessor are the dominant activities. Successor depend on the predecessor, the trailing activity. When the trailing activity did not finishes up, the next follow-up activity will not gonna start. The next follow-up activity will not gonna start up. But according to their dependencies on each other, they will dependent. The successor will depend on predecessor. There is interdependencies by that, because when the training activity, predecessor activity did not finish up, the successor activity will not start up. So these are interconnected, interdependencies on each other. So as you can see, this is a little bit longer arrow pointing towards, heading towards activity 4. this is shorter and this is then longer. So logically the 5 will start first, the 6 start second, and the 4 start at the end, while all these 3 successor activities are the successors activities of predecessor 3. Alright, the 7 activity is the successor activity of 2 predecessors. When the activity 5 and 6 finish on site, the 7 will start. Similarly, the activity number 8 and 9 are the successors activities of predecessor 7. When 7 finished up, 8 and 9 will start up, and that's a start to start activities relationship. 5 to 6 is also start to start, seems up like that. When the 10 starts up, the 8 and 9 will finish up. So 8 and 9 are the predecessor activities of successor 10, and 10 is a successor activity of predecessor 8 and 9. Similarly, 11 activity will start up when 4 finish up, so 11 is a successor of activity 4. The same applies for 12, which is a successor of predecessor 11, and 13. When the 12 first finish up or 10 first finish up, 13 will start it. What are the case? Or when the 10 first finish up and 12 first second up finishing, 13 will start. Or when the both are simultaneously finish up, then 13 will start. So what are the case? There are 3 cases. But in this case, as you can see, the activity, these will be defined by durations, the total float. Alright, earlier finish, early start, early finish, late start, late finish. We will make a tutorial on that in the future. But when the 13 will start up, these activities depend upon durations in consumed time. So, but the team will start up when the 2 predecessor activities 12 and 10 finished up. Which one finished up? It will depend upon duration, and we're gonna make a tutorial in the future on that. So, an activity of project is denoted by arrow on the network? Yes, of course. This is arrow. This is an activity 3 to 4. There's a chainage and the connectivity of 2 activities, which is 3 and 4. So it's been denoted by an arrow, right? The heading directed towards another activity. And the arrow, that is the arrow. So here you can see that from whenever activity started, the arrow tail will hit, will connect with the activity started point. And the arrow head will, hit and connect the successor activity of the predecessor. The predecessor activity will start from the arrow tail, and the successor activity will start with the arrow head, right? A tail of the window indicates start of the activity. It's absolutely right. The head of the arrow indicates the end of an activity. So absolutely, because here the activity ends, so the tail will connect that successor activity, and then that successor activity will start up. The arrow are drawn to scale from left to right. The arrow are drawn from scale to, like it will start from left to right. It's not necessary. Like this is left, this is left, right, and this is left, and this is right. So it's not necessary that always it's the case. So this is the wrong option. Yeah, that might be the wrong option and correct option, right? The arrows are drawn to scale from left to right. It can be from right to left as well, and each activity consume a given time. Absolutely, that's also correct. So the incorrect statement is this one right now. Okay, a technique for establishing and maintaining priorities. Life is all about the priorities, but when you are maintaining a priorities among the various Java project is known as event flow scheduling technique, critical ratio scheduling, or slotting technique for scheduling, or short interval scheduling, right? So critical ratio scheduling is a technique by which we established and maintain priorities among the various jobs of a project is known as critical ratio scheduling. Alright, so critical ratio scheduling is a dispatching rule that calculates a priority index number by dividing the time to due date. When you have divided the time, suppose we have 6 months project, so we have the time 6 months, but if that started at 6 January, then it will complete at 6 June, so the 6 June is the due date. So the time, dividing time to due date remaining by the expected elapsed time to finish a job. Typically ratio of less than 1.0 are behind, right, and ratio greater than 1.0 are ahead. That's a technique of critically ratio scheduling. Sometimes called schedule performance index, SPI. We will make a video on that. But if we have a ratio which is less than 1, we are behind the schedule according to the critical ratio scheduling. And if the ratio that is greater than 1, we are ahead of a schedule, which is a pleasing sign, which is a fabulous sign, which is a jubilant sign, which is always very great. But if a ratio of 1.0, that means we are on the schedule, so it's a good sign that we are at least on a schedule. So that's performances, and that's the ratio that has been given to that 1.0. If we have the critical ratio scheduling come out 1, then we are on the schedule. It means we're going with the exact planning, and that planning are exactly executing at site. Milestone charts were first introduced by milestone charts were invented in the year, so that's in 1940. Milestone charts. Why are we using milestone charts? Let me show you. So milestone charts were actually, it's also called Gantt chart. It is a horizontal chart. You can see that all these bars are moving horizontally from left to right. So that is why it's called horizontal chart. That marks the most important steps of your project, or any construction project, or any project which we are planning on a Microsoft project, or project library software, or Primavera, Oracle Primavera. Oracle Primavera is the most prominent and most diverse range of software which is used by the planning engineer, earning millions or billions of dollars all around the world. It's actually the visual representation. Whenever we are visualizing our project in the form of planning, a milestone charts or a Gantt chart is it's a visual representation. It's most of the important tasks which we want to achieve. Alright, so for example, This is the first page. So this is a publish on Instagram. This is my milestone. So all these tasks are the most important tasks of the project. So this is a milestone chart, which are then replaced by Gantt chart. A milestone chart, a milestone are given, and it's a visual representation. Whenever we achieve our milestone, then we are achieving a specific task in our project. So a milestone chart is a visual representation of most important task of your project. A milestone chart is the visual representation of the most important tasks that involve in the project that your team needs to complete throughout a project. Without those achieving the milestone, availing the milestones, we cannot complete our project. So it was first invented and introduced in 1940, and this is a indication of a milestone chart indicating legends. Like the full dark shows the completed milestone. Now this milestone is completed. This milestone number 2 is incompleted. The milestone number 3 is completed. That might be superstructures. That might be columns. It is incompleted. That might be the ground floor, brick masonry. This is completed. That might be removal of formwork, or you can say plank beam. This is incomplete. That might be plastering of the ground floor. So that's it, exactly shows like that, and it is in vertically it's a milestones, and it's a horizontal representation, and in this graph and axis it represents the time.